Okay, so let's move on to part two. As I said, Brian Erskine came to a bad end. He was told by the court that the defendant, Zoe Old, and the Fenn Estate could in fact go after him for attorney's fees, and as my friend said, we're probably looking at minimum of $125,000. Ouch. Not good. Not good for Brian Erskine. But it was a pretty stupid case. I'll just say stupid. I mean, misguided, flimsy. It's just... What's happened with Barb? Well, Barb Andersen originally thought that she had figured out where the solve was, and she thought it was in New Mexico. And of course, we now know that the treasure was found, according to both Fenn and Jack Stoof, in Wyoming. So Barb said it was actually in New Mexico, and she believed the solve was hacked. Her solve. She believed she had the correct solve, and it was hacked by the unknown finder, unknown person. Finally, when Jack Stoof was said to be the finder, she thought that Jack Stoof had hacked her for the solve. And in spite of the fact that he said he found it in Wyoming, and she claimed it was in New Mexico, that was her argument, that someone had hacked her, the unknown finder had hacked her, and then when his identity was revealed, that Jack Stoof had hacked her, and that Forrest Fenn had been complicit in all of this because Forrest Fenn had gone out of his way to protect the finder, keep the identity of the finder unknown, and then of course after Jack Stoof's identity was outed, supposedly by Barb. This is something my legal friend still does not understand. He said, why did Jack Stoof out himself? In other words, why did Jack Stoof make his identity known, claiming that he had to because it was going to be, the information was going to be released by the Fenn Estate? Anyway, why, if the original reason Jack Stoof's identity had been hidden was his safety, why then, my friend wondered, did Jack Stoof not go in private before he identified himself to the judge, to the court, and say, look what's happened to the Fenn Estate people. I mean, they've all been harassed. They've had people break into their place. You know, they've had this happen, that happen. They've been stalked. Can you not shield my identity somehow and make it so that it doesn't have to be revealed in court depositions, papers, etc.? My friend didn't understand why Jack Stoof didn't do that. I'm not an attorney, but I understand his pique. He was kind of like, I don't get it, you know? I don't know. I can't speak for Jack, of course, but we know that Jack decided that he would make his identity known and kind of blamed it on Barb and said, well, the Fenn Estate's going to have to do this because of the litigation they're under, and so I'm just going to, go ahead and tell you who I am. Anyway, none of that went anywhere. And for Barb, she made virtually no headway, except that, of course, Jack Stoof did identify himself, and she was able to keep her case going. But now, in the end, she felt, and I give Barb credit for that. A lot of people have given Barb credit for that. She, for whatever reason, she was able to get Jack Stoof to identify himself, even though, like I said, my friend doesn't understand why Jack did that. He just thought maybe Jack had a pretty bad lawyer or attorney for him to feel he had to do that when he probably didn't really have to. But I don't know, in this day and age, I guess the identity would have come out sooner or later. Bottom line is, Barb decided to voluntarily dismiss her case, and this is what she referred, this is how she, let's just go over it. Barb filed the case against Forrest Fenn and an unknown defendant. Mr. Fenn, who allegedly hid a treasure in the Rocky Mountains and published a poem with clues to the location of the treasure, died after the filing of the lawsuit. Barb alleges she had solved the clues to the location of the treasure, but the unknown defendant hacked her computer and found the treasure before Barb could. Barb states that the person who supposedly found the treasure may be, quote, pranking Barb. Pranking as in playing games with her. Barb also states she cannot currently return to New Mexico, where she believes Fenn hid the treasure, and asked the court for, quote, time to return to New Mexico so that she can revisit her area. I don't get that. I don't know. Barb requests the court either grant her leave to voluntarily dismiss with express language in the order that Andersen is giving leave to no response. I don't know. All right, bottom line. Barb's motion to voluntarily dismiss with leave to reinstate, or alternatively motion to stay, is granted in part. This case is dismissed without prejudice. They go over some things that are denied. I'm not going to get into all of it, but the bottom line is that Barb Andersen her case has been dismissed. They ruled this matter comes before the court on the court's order of dismissal, which dismissed all of Barb's claims. It is ordered that this case is dismissed without prejudice, meaning that Barb, her case is dismissed with really no restrictions. Like I said, things were denied that I'm not going to get into, but the bottom line is all we really need to know is that Barb Andersen can begin a new case against Fenn Estate, against Zoe Old if she wants, because she was not restricted from doing so by the court when the case was dismissed without prejudice. She was not forced to pay the attorney's fees for the Fenn Estate, etc. My friend felt she really kind of got off nicely, but he had a warning for her. He said, I pray for Barb's sake that she does not reintroduce a new case that's a redress of the old case. In other words, he said, for her own sake, she should not just reintroduce this case that she already just went through in a different way, because if she does that, the court's gonna probably not be very happy with her, and she could find the case dismissed with prejudice. Just totally speculation, who knows? This is what my friend does not understand, and I go along with him. And I was saying this before he brought it up with me. I mean, he kind of agreed with what I was saying on my videos and said, yeah, why is there not a class action suit? This is the thing. We all read the friggin' books. We all read the poem. We all think we know the solve. Now, this is something I've discussed in my other videos. I get so tired. People still send me the solves, folks. I mean, some of you have actually gotten mad at me and said, how dare you, kind of be dismissive of people and their solves and say it's all over and people shouldn't have the fun of continuing to, push their solve. Fine, I get it. I'm just saying it's over. As far as I'm concerned, that's fine. But it's just rehashing the same stuff over and kind of saying, I figured it out, in spite of the fact that Jack Stoof apparently has the treasure. But I do acknowledge what people are able to say, which is that we don't know the friggin' location. And that goes to the heart of what I would like to say about this concept of a class action suit. My friend kind of wishes Barb would do this, but he's not a practicing attorney right now, and he wasn't in, well, I'm not sure what this kind of litigation would be anyway. I suppose it's something, Barb Andersen is a real estate attorney, right? Anyway, the point I was going to make is we all have what we consider the correct solve. That's fine. We all read the poem, we all read the clues, etc. None of us know if we're right. And that's why this solve process goes on and on and on with everybody discussing their solves, because we have yet to know what the true location is. How do we know it exists? Or if it did exist, how do we know the poem pointed to it? Right? I mean, that's kind of like very suspicious to me that we had a case go on, or rather we had a chase go on for 10 years. 10 years. People went out and they spent, people did stupid things. They went out and they spent their life savings and they went bankrupt looking for this thing. A lot of people did it like I did within their budget. It was just kind of a fun hobby, as I used to call it. People got into it in varying degrees, but the bottom line is, when you consider that this thing went on for 10 freaking years, and it ends with us never even knowing if the poem really did lead you to where the poem supposedly led you, that's very unsatisfactory. And I think a lot of people who were in the hunt have a problem with the fact that we're never going to know, apparently, if that poem really led you to any specific place. Or was it just, like a lot of people said, a very vague and ambiguous poem that was almost like, as I used to say, a Rorschach test. Everybody kind of read what they wanted into it. Everybody ended up all over the place. You know, before Fenn restricted it to the 4 states in the Rockies, people were in Utah, people were in all over the Rocky Mountains outside of those 4 states. So we're never going to know if the poem literally had a central theme that directed you as plot points on a map, as Fenn said. We're never going to know if those plot points were actually in that poem and led you to a specific place that we all can look at and understand, oh yeah, the poem really does lead you to X. We're never going to have that proved. We're never going to know if that was true. Well, how did Jack Stoof find out? Hacked Fenn? I don't know. You know, I just did the videos about the Secret Valley Creek and the Caldera Rim toilet and all that. What if Fenn had the thing hidden out there, but it didn't really follow the poem? Or if it did, it was in some abstract way that no one in their right mind would ever be able to figure out logically, and Jack Stoof only got there because he hacked Fenn and was able to find out the location by hacking Fenn. How do we know that's not true? We don't. Why do we not know it's true? Because we don't know the location. That location is central to everybody understanding whether this thing was real or not. And I know a lot of people want to know that location for their own personal peace of mind. But I think from a legal standpoint, I think it's pretty darn important that all of the people who participated in the Forrest Fenn chase are allowed to know to what degree they really had a chance to find that treasure if they followed the poem and the hints in the books. Because right now there's no proof that if you followed the poem and the books and the hints, that you are certain you could have found it, because we don't know the location. I'm going to do another video shortly on Jack Stoof. Information about Jack Stoof has turned up. Speculation about what this information means. Had a very interesting thing happen with a searcher. She and I talked. I don't know to what extent I would want to maybe, I haven't even told her this. I basically said, let's not do it right now, but you know, I may do it or want to do aspects of what happened with her in the next video about Jack Stoof, because it's really about Jack Stoof and her and me and another searcher, another person. So, and it adds kind of an interesting sidelight. I only bring this up because of something my legal friend just told me. And so when he just told me this information, something that she and I had talked about clicked. And so there may be something to that. Jack Stoof, very interesting, this whole thing with Jack Stoof. Interesting, the collaboration that we think went on between Fenn and Jack Stoof. To get back to the whole thing with the class action suit, as my friend said, and I've said this in another video that he said this, when a guy like a Brian Erskine walks in with this very flimsy, misguided case, he somehow was able to get that case, he somehow was able to get a lawyer who would follow through with it. And of course, we now know what a disaster that turned out to be. Sometimes those kind of cases are dismissed, right? But what my friend said is, imagine a lawyer comes in and he says, Judge, I have 5,000 people who have signed a petition saying they want to sign up for a class action suit. They want to know that location to prove that they had half a chance, right? They had a chance by following the clues that they could have actually gotten there, because right now we don't know. He said, I think if a judge saw a petition with 5,000 people, 1,000 people, 500 people, obviously the more the merrier. I think there'd be some amount of money that, well, I shouldn't even get into this. He mentioned something about if everyone, paid the $100. I don't know if that's what you have to pay, some minimum amount to be part of a class action suit to start one. I don't know. His point was, though, imagine, though, if we had hundreds, if not thousands of searchers who said, we want to know that location because we want to know if we really had a chance following that poem. Because right now, nobody has proven to us it was a real, honest search by buying those books. And one more thing I'd like to say about those books. I have two different people that contacted me. The first one, the guy's a tenacious dude. He wrote me, he said, what's with the cancer fund? I said, with the cancer? He said, yeah, what's with that? You remember the book? One of the books, I think it was the second one, the money goes to the cancer fund, 10%. He said, I wrote the Fenn Estate and they wouldn't tell me what the cancer fund went to, which one it went to. He said, they literally said, oh, that's just something that one of the kids is in charge of. One of the kids is in charge of? Why is one of the kids in charge of the cancer fund money that one of the books raised? Why is the person that represented the Fenn Estate not able to just say, oh, that went to the Cancer Society of America, that went to the Red Cross Cancer Fund, that went to blah, blah, blah? Why would that not be at the tip of the tongue of the Fenn Estate when people say, where did the money go for the cancer fund that I was promised was part of the money that I spent on the book? So then another person, when I was telling them the story, they contacted the Fenn Estate. They said, could you please tell me where the money, what cancer fund the money went to? No answer. 2 times. Second person, no answer. Just saying. By the way, it's kind of weird, isn't it? It should be an easy answer. You know me, I think corruption's everywhere, especially our government, governments of the world. Totally corrupt. Gosh, just everything. It's just money, money, money. All these bills that they pass now, and we don't know where the money's going, these ridiculous things. Nobody knows where that money really goes. I'm not going to get into any of that. I'm going to leave it right here. I'm going to just say, we need to get answers coming up. I hope everyone enjoys themselves. I want to do another one shortly on Jack Stoof. The fallout from the chase is not going to end, in my opinion, until we know the location. That really, to me, is the ultimate goal of anything from here on in. I mean, obviously, when I hear things, I'll bring them up, but I want to know the location. I think I have a right to know the location. I went out there, I forget how many trips, 6 trips, looking for this thing. And I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life never knowing if I even had a chance following the clues? It's all up to us, guys. Oh, Barb, I will say this before I go, if you're watching this. My friend would, my legal friend, he would love to talk about this stuff with you, but he would like it to be a group conversation between him and you and me. And you might think, why? I don't know. He's the one that kind of said, I just have some good questions for her privately. And he'd love to hear your take on some things. And he's kind of curious about the class action suit thing. See, he's not practicing, but he just seems to think that's something that he wishes someone would take up. And I agree. To find the location. I agree. Everybody have a good day, and we'll talk again soon.